Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here today. Joining us today for a great session from our smart trainers with smart technologies. They're the people who are teaching you guys how to use your smartboard, and also SLSO, the online component. My name, though, is John Shoemaker from the Department of Educational Technology. We're the group that hosts these live streams for you and do all of the training and EdTech integration for you. So without further ado, I'm going to go over a couple of housekeeping, and then I will introduce our special guests before they share the lesson for today. So with that, we do have some housekeeping that we like to share in each of our sessions. As a reminder, this session is live on YouTube right now, and it is being recorded. And as soon as this session is over, it will be at the same link you used to get here automatically. So it will be there. You can go back and watch it, rewatch it, pause it, whatever you need to do as many times as you'd like to do it. We're also on Twitter, so we would love to have you tag us at hashtag ETPBCPD, little tongue twister there, and also tag our EdTech account, which is EdTechPBC. We'd love to share and hear what you're learning, what you're doing. And also, don't forget down below, if you would please subscribe to our channel down there. We are so close to 4,000 subscribers. We would love to hit that mark very soon. So all you have to do is hit the subscribe button, and what that will do is it will let you know each time we go live. I'm going to share our schedule here at the end of the session as to what we're looking at. But when you subscribe, if you hit the bell, you'll actually get an email each time we go live, so you know that we have a new session available to either watch live or watch it when it was recorded. We also have some awesome people over there in the chat box, which is where you're going to communicate. So if you cannot communicate, you actually have to click in there and say, yes, you want to create a channel, and then you may have to refresh the page. But then you can actually talk in that box over there over on the right. And in there, we do have some awesome people with little wrenches next to their name. Some of them are from EdTech, and we also have some of our other smart trainers in the chat box to help you. They're actually going to be sharing information during the session that our special guest will be talking about. Also, don't forget, our website is available at edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. We have been live streaming since March, and we have done a lot of live streams on Smart. There are so many amazing ideas that have been shared from this group over the past few months. And all of that is actually on our website, and you could go back and watch the videos and learn from them yourselves. There are great activities, great ideas. So please feel free to check out our website, and also don't forget to check out the Smart page as well. And so with that, I also want to talk about a thing that our colleague John Long has shared, which is our workshop selfies. And so what a workshop selfie is we want to see where you are learning from right now. It could be right now, obviously, still your classroom. It could be your house. But what we want you to do is we would love for you to grab your phone. We want you to turn on that camera, and we just want you to turn and take a selfie of where you are learning from. And you can see where I am producing from. And then once you take that selfie, what we want you to do is go to Twitter and then use the hashtag ETPBCPD and tag EdTechPBC. And we want to see where you're learning from. And so what we will be doing is, as you saw a second ago, we're going to be featuring you guys in each of our live streams. So as more of those posts come in, we will actually put you guys up on the stage and share where you're learning from. We love to see it. We love to see what you're learning and where you're learning from. So thank you again for being here. We do appreciate you guys more than you know, and we are always here to help in any way we can. And so with that, I'm going to actually introduce our special guests from Smart. And so first we have Laura from one of our Smart trainers, and we have Asha, another one of our Smart trainers. So ladies, I'm going to let you guys take over and have a great show.
Thank you so much, John. So I would like to welcome everybody today to our session called Beyond the Books, where we're able to leverage the SMART solution to foster social and emotional learning in this digital age. To kick it off today, we'd like to do a little short introduction about ourselves. My name is Laura VanHellemont, and like John said, smart training specialist. I typically cover the schools down in the South region area, as well as a little bit of the Central as well. And somebody from our team is going to be dropping our information in the chat, our emails, and our Twitter handles.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for Beyond the Books. My name is Asha Evans, and I too am a smart training specialist. I mostly service schools in the Central West Palm area and a little out west.
Awesome. Thank you, Asha. And so we're going to kick it off today by covering our agenda of what we hope to cover during our time together. First one, we are going to discuss the importance of how social and emotional learning and how it can be incorporated in the digital or blended classroom. So, how to take some of those things that you would have been doing in the classroom physically before and making them into digital activities. First off, we're going to start by launching the Smart Exchange, which is our content library. We're going to be able to pull in some already made SEL activities. We're also going to teach you how to create some of your own SEL activities using the Smart Learning Suite online, or we'll probably reference it throughout the rest of the session as SLSO. And then lastly, you'll actually be able to interact with those SEL activities live on our session today. And if you're watching this in recording, you'll at least see how the components work as you would be using these in the classroom. So, why did we want to cover SEL today? It does tie in a little bit with Dot Day, which was yesterday, which is International Dot Day, which does cover a lot about social emotional learning. But we want to make sure that you're able to make connections with your students this school year during these unprecedented times, even though you may be at a distance, they may be coming into the classroom, or some variety in between. So we want to make sure that you know there's some really strong benefits of focusing in on social emotional learning with your students as you're getting to know them in the classroom. If you're able to build those SEL skills with the students, you'll notice that there's going to be some academic improvement. They've now met the level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and they're being safe and they're being comforted in the classroom. They know that you're a trusted adult in their life. Then you'll see that their academic improvement also increases. Next, you'll see improved social interactions, not just from peer to peer in the classroom, peer to peer from online and in the classroom, but you can also see improved social interactions with the adults in the building. So, whether they're teachers or other support staff that your students are working with, when they can show empathy, they can set goals, and they can establish those positive relationships, you'll see those positive, improved social interactions in school. And then lastly, what you'll see is positive behavior changes. So students are able to regulate their behavior and understand when they're feeling angry or frustrated and know the great outlets to use during that rather than just maybe having explosive behavior. They're able to maybe regulate their behavior a little bit better. So academic improvement, check. Improved social interactions and positive behavior changes. The framework that we're going to use for today's session is called the Social Emotional Learning Core Competencies, and this is created by an organization called CASTLE. So, as we're touching base on the different activities today, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be covering these different buckets about social emotional awareness, relationship skills, decision making, self awareness, and self management. Some of the skills that we're going to cover today and the activities that we do might cover more than one of these areas. So, what you'll notice is that as we go through and build the activities together, we're going to make sure that you get to see how does this activity cover into social emotional learning and which bucket in the CASA competencies. All right. So now we're going to have a quick let's talk about it. As I go through these questions, and we know we're kind of coming from you a little bit in the future, a few seconds here, what we would like you to do is type some responses to the questions in the chat. First one, what SEL strategies have you implemented successfully in the traditional classroom setting? So things that you would have done maybe last year and previous years to help students build those skills. Then the next piece is what are some of those challenges of those activities that you have used in the past and being able to use them in a digital or a blended classroom environment? I'm going to give you one of my ideas, and I'm going to bring up Asha on one of her ideas. So, in the past, I used to be one of those teachers that would stand at the door and I would do high five, mid five, low five with my students to kind of see as they were coming into the classroom between periods where they kind of were at as they were coming into the class day. And it was pretty awesome because I could know like, hey, a lot of my class gave me low fives today. We need to start off with an activity where I make sure I can build up their confidence for the day. Or maybe I need to connect with some students to figure out what's going on. Um, that's probably not going to be possible right now. So how could I change that and do that digitally? Asha, what other activities have you done before?
Something I used to do as a classroom teacher, it was a Kagan structure, stand up, hand up, pair up, where students would get to move around the room and they would find a partner and then talk about whatever topic I gave them, like what'd you do over the weekend, or maybe it was something more academic. But in today's climate, I don't think we'll be doing hands up, pairs up. So we'll have to figure out how could something like that be done digitally.
All right. So I'm going to try and wait a second to see over in the chat. What strategies have you guys done? And what challenges are you facing that we might be able to address in our time today? Let's see. I'm checking in the chat. I'm hoping you guys are catching up with us here. We'll see if they come in. All right. I'm going to go back and I'll check those again in a minute to see if we have any comments from the audience as to kind of what some strategies are that you'd like to use and some challenges that you've been facing. The whole goal is that we want SMART to be able to help you be able to make this transition into the digital environment. And so, what I'm going to do for you is we have a short little video that I'd like to play for you about what is the Smart Learning Suite Online.
Laura, I think you have your headphones on, right? We're not able to hear the sound.
Okay. We'll roll with it. We'll roll with the closed captioning at the bottom.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yep. Otherwise, you're going to get an echo from me. Awesome. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to circle back now that you learned a little bit about the Smart Learning Suite Online. I know that there's some comments that have come up in the chat about how you guys are using this right now in the classroom. Um, and so we see some questions that came out. Let's see. I'm checking them here. Hang on one second. I think most of these, oh, I have characters like the pie guy and Auntie B make pop-in visits. That's a cool SEL strategy. So we'll see how we can maybe take the pie guy and the Auntie B and turn them into digital resources, allowing students to share. This is a great resources for students to share. We'll show you some ways to do classical music and math exercises. Cool. Awesome. So I hope that the activities we show you today will give you some ideas of how you can use them in your class as well. So cycling back forward here real quick. So you saw a little bit of the introduction on the Smart Learning Suite Online. And just to reiterate from the video, it's pretty cool because the Smart Learning Suite Online is integrated with Google. So the way that you access it here in Palm Beach County is you actually access it from your Google Drive. You're going to click New, More, Smart Learning Suite. And then that's going to go ahead and it launches you into the Smart Learning Suite Online dashboard. As you can see, the dashboard has a ton of features that are available for teachers to use with their students. You can import existing resources, add and ad-free YouTube videos, and you have a variety of ready-made activities and game-based activities that you can use with your students, all built into Google Drive. It's pretty cool. And so today, Asha is going to lead you through some exercises and activities that she is going to load in from the Smart Exchange, and then she's going to add some interactive elements using these buttons and activities to be able to show you how to use them. And today she's going to start from our Smart Exchange, which is an online library of pre-created standards-aligned lessons. It's also a place where you can find SEL lessons, guidance lessons, and activities that are free for you to use, edit, and launch with your students in the classroom. And it's all editable and all integrated with Google. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Asha to start with our SEL activities.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. As Laura mentioned, on Smart Exchange, you can find a ton of that's right, free classroom resources. And right now I'm on the home page of Smart Exchange, which you can get to by going to exchange.smarttech.com. And when you're on the home page, you'll notice that there are files or activities that they have featured. As of right now, a lot of those files have to do with social emotional learning. I'm not going to select any of the featured files. Instead, I'm going to search for one. And here in the search bar, you can search by typing in a topic or a keyword for a lesson that you're looking for. And for me, I'm going to type in SEL. Once my results load, I see here on the left-hand side that I have the option to filter the results to kind of narrow the results that I'm looking at. I can also scroll down and use the arrows at the bottom to maneuver through the pages. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one here that says SEL Activities. And when you select the resource that you're interested in, you are able to preview the file. So from here, I can kind of scroll through and see the activities that are a part of this file and decide if I think this would work for my students and myself or not. I can also scroll down and I see there's a description of the file as well as the grades, subjects, and some keywords associated with it. Now, I like this file and I want to use it, so I can either download it, which will allow me to open it in Smart Notebook, or I can save it to Smart Learning Suite Online. For the sake of this webinar, I'm going to be saving it to Smart Learning Suite Online. So I'll go ahead and press that button. And now that I've chosen to save it to Smart Learning Suite Online, it is going to save it into my Google Drive. So on this page, I can see right now that I'm being given a copy of that SEL activities file that I found on Smart Exchange. And I can see that it's in my drive, stored in the Smart Learning Suite folder. And the title of it is SEL Activities with the suffix SLS. This is really useful for me to know if I want to go back and locate the file in my drive. I can go to my Smart Learning Suite folder, or I could search for it by name, or even search for it by suffix. Now that I have this file copied to my drive, I can either start it, edit it, or go to Google Drive. And I'm not ready to start it yet. I want to do a few changes and add some things to it. So I'm actually going to select Edit the Lesson. Now that I've chosen to edit the lesson, I've been taken to the editing page on Smart Learning Suite Online. From this page, I have the ability to rename the file. So if I didn't want to stick with SEL activities, I could give it my own name. I'm also able to rearrange the order of the pages. So if I want to maybe shuffle things around, I can do that. And I can add to this file by pressing the plus sign down here at the bottom. So just taking a look at what I already have to work with, I see the first page here is a classmate bingo. I know as a classroom teacher, this is something that I would have my students go around with. They would all have their paper on their clipboard and try to find a classmate that matches the descriptor in the boxes. But it would probably look a little differently in today's climate. Laura, what Castle competency do you think classmate bingo aligns with?
I would say that it aligns with building relationships and relationship skills. And so you're able to make those connections with the students and build those relationships with other students. And what do you have in common with me that can help us build a connection and then be able to communicate and connect with each other in the future on assignments?
Awesome. I completely agree. And so, because our students won't be walking around with a clipboard and having students write on their paper, you could instead do this virtually by converting this page to something called a workspace. In order for me to do that, I'm going to come down here at the bottom where it says Convert to Activity. And when I click on that button, I see I have the option to make it a workspace or make it a handout. Making it a workspace will allow students to work collaboratively. So I can either have all of my students working together on one space, or I could form groups. You'll be able to see exactly what this looks like when we're in presentation mode later. Now that I've converted it, I'm going to go ahead and rename it just so that I know what this is as I'm going through my lesson. So this is my class bingo. I renamed it to match. This next activity here, it says peer positivity, and students are expected to write positive qualities about their teammates. So as a classroom teacher, I loved sticky notes, and the more colorful they are, the better. And so in a traditional classroom setting, students could write qualities on a sticky note and share it with their classmates. But again, things are looking a little different nowadays. So for us, we could use this again as a workspace. And to make this a workspace, I'm just going back here to convert to activity. And then I would select the option that says make this a workspace activity. Laura, which Castle competency does this one align with?
This one also aligns with relationship skills. So the students are able to connect with each other and give each other positive feedback. What do they really find valuable that they're able to provide into the class? And then they're able to kind of build each other's self-esteem up. And so I would definitely tie this one into relationship skills as well.
Definitely. Moving on to the next activity. This one is super exciting, and it also showcases one of the really great features, or one of the really great reasons why you should get lessons from Smart Exchange is because they're built in Smart Notebook. And Smart Notebook has some really unique interactive features that you could then share with your students on Smart Learning Suite Online. So this one is a student check-in that students would use to share, how they're feeling and kind of reflect on their mood. And with this one, they actually have this little slider here, and this slider allows them to slide between 1 and 5 to respond to the question that is posed to them. So how has your day been so far? They can go ahead and slide it to respond. How do you feel about being in class? How do you feel about yourself today? And in addition to the sliders, they have an area over here to the right that allows them to actually type in anything they would like to share with the teacher. Laura, which Castle competency would you say this one aligns with?
This one aligns with the self-reflection and the CASEL competencies. So the students are able to take a moment and reflect upon their experiences in class, whether it's with each other or with the academic content that they're interacting with or with the teacher. And so they're able to self-reflect and say how are they feeling? And then as a teacher, you're able to know that information to be able to make guided choices and decisions as you're moving forward with instruction and making sure that you're meeting all of your students' needs.
So, since this one is a student self reflection, I would want students to be able to work on this independently. So, I'm going to make it a handout. I'm going to go back to the bottom where it says convert to activity. we're very familiar with this piece. But instead of converting it to a workspace, I'm going to convert it to an individual handout. This is going to give each of my students a copy of this self-reflection. That way they're able to independently share with me how they're feeling. And then the last page that came over with this Smart Exchange lesson looks like a goal setting sheet. And with this goal setting sheet, students will be able to fill in the steps they plan to take in order to reach their ultimate goal, and they can celebrate along the way. What's really cool about this is that this little celebration piece is infinitely cloned. So as you can see, I can just keep on dragging out my little celebrations, which I think will really excite the students as they're making progress. And although this one already came over infinitely cloned, if you decided that you wanted to make your own infinitely cloned object here in Smart Learning Suite Online, you could simply click on the image icon up here at the top, and then you could search for the image you are interested in. And once you've got that image, you'll just drag it over to your page. I'm going to go ahead and resize it here. And now that I have that lovely smiley face, in the top right-hand corner of that smiley face is this little drop-down arrow. When I click on it, I see one of the options is to make it an infinite cloner. So once I select infinite cloner, I can now drag out as many smiley faces as I want to. To clean up the smiley faces, I'll just click on them again. And in the top right-hand corner, click on that drop-down menu and delete. Okay, so pretty cool. So again, like I said, this page already came with an object infinitely cloned, but if you wanted to make your own on this page or any page that you're using in Smart Learning Suite Online, you can do so by adding an image and then selecting Infinite Cloner. So now that I have this page set up the way I want, I'm going to go ahead and convert it to a handout so that my students will be able to independently share a goal that they're setting for themselves. So down to the bottom, our favorite button, Convert to Activity. And I'm going to make this page an individual handout. And I'll go ahead and rename it Goal Setting. So we've gone through and we've made the changes to the pages that were already here from our Smart Exchange file. But I'm going to kick it up a notch, and I'm also going to add some components that I think will be beneficial for my students. To do so, I'm going to press this plus sign down here at the bottom. And when I press the plus sign, it takes me to the SLSO Dashboard. This probably looks familiar. Laura went over it a little bit earlier in today's session. And from the dashboard, I see that I have the ability to add YouTube videos, which are really cool because they play without any ads. I can also add a new page, and there are tons of ready-made resources that I can simply scroll through, click, and add, and they're ready for my students to use. For right now, I'm going to add something called a Shoutout Out. And for those of you that are not familiar with what a Shoutout Out is, what's really neat is there is a magnifying glass here that allows you to preview what a Shoutout Out is. With this preview, it shows you what a Shoutout Out looks like when it's being used by your students. And it also gives you a little description of what a Shoutout Out is. Shoutout Out is great for brainstorming or getting feedback from your students. And so for this lesson, I'm going to be using Shoutout Out for students to share with me how they're feeling as they enter class. So once you select Shoutout Out, it takes you to a page that looks like this. You can either choose to have the responses come through randomized, or you could create categories. So maybe if you're doing a sort with students, or if you're using this for an English class, then you want to do verbs and nouns. But for the sake of SEL and for the students sharing their emotion, I'm just going to keep it randomized. You can also choose how you want your students to respond. whether you want them to type in their response or send in images. That could be pretty useful for your English language learners or even your younger students. And then here you're able to adjust how many responses your students can provide. I'm going to lower that to 1. And then you also have the option to show student names or hide student names, which is really powerful if your students are afraid to share and they would rather keep it anonymous. I'm going to go ahead and press finish, and I'm done. And instead of leaving Shouted Out here, I'm going to rename it so that I can remember, hey, this is for students to name their emotion. And I'm going to rearrange my slide because currently it's at slide number 2, but this is something I would want students to do as soon as they come in. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're in this editing phase on Smart Learning Suite Online, you can rearrange your pages, and I'm going to do so simply by clicking and then dragging it to the position that I want it to be in. So now it's number 1. The next piece I'm going to add here is something that I want my students to end the class with. So again, I'm going to press this plus sign, and I want my students to end the class with an opportunity to share things that they appreciate about one another, things that maybe they want to apologize for because they realized it wasn't the right thing to do, and then any realizations that they've made throughout the course of the class. So I'm going to go to Ready-Made Resources, and I'm going to check out the graphic organizers. Because I know there are 3 pieces I want my students to be able to share, I'm thinking it might be best to use a 3-column chart. Oh, and would you look at that? There's one right here. And again, it has a magnifying glass in the top right-hand corner that allows me to preview what this looks like. So I can see in this example, the teacher used it for vocabulary definition and details. But for me, I'm going to use it for my appreciation, apology, and aha moments. So I'm going to go ahead and select that activity. And now that I've selected it, here it is loaded and ready for me to go. Now, there are some headers that I think would be beneficial for my students to see, and I have the ability to add those in here in the editing phase. At the top of the page, I have this finger icon. I have this capital A, which is my text icon, and I also have this images icon. I'm going to select the A so that I can add text and just click what I want to add. And once I click, it brings up the different settings that I can have for my text. Arial is fine, but I think I want to make my font a little larger. So I'll go ahead and set it to 36. Now I'm just going to type out the headings that I want. So here's appreciation. I don't want it right here underneath the blue, but I actually want it on the blue. So I'm just going to click and then I can drag it wherever I want it. So if I wanted it down here at the bottom, in the middle, but it makes most sense to put it right here at the top. So there's my appreciation column. Now I'm going to click the A again so that I can add apology. And notice that since I changed the settings for that first text box, it's applying it to all of the text boxes that I add afterwards. So here's apology, and then my A again. Aha. Alrighty, so we have our appreciation, apology, and aha. Now, one really neat feature that has been recently added is the ability to add instructional audio to a page. And adding instructional audio allows you to personalize the lesson and guide your students. Maybe you want to do a read aloud or provide instructions to help your early readers or ESL students. In order for me to do that, I'm just going to click on this icon down here at the bottom. So we have a trash can, and to the right of the trash can, it looks like a person speaking. That's the icon for you to add instructional audio. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And I'm able to record my instructions by pressing Start Recording. Hello, learners. Please use this page to share something you appreciate, apologize for, or a major realization you've had during today's class. Once I press pause and review, it gives me the option to play my recording back so I can hear it and make sure this is what I want my students to hear. I also have the option to continue my recording. So if I realize, oh, wait, there was something else that I meant to say, I could pick up where I left off. I can also delete it and start over if I play it back and I realize, oh my goodness, I don't like how that sounds. Or I can add it. So I'm going to go ahead and add this clip. And now when this lesson is in presentation mode, I will be able to play those instructions for my students, and my students will also be able to play those instructions for themselves. Now, the last piece for me to do on this page is to actually convert this. So I'm going to go ahead and press Convert to Activity, and I'm going to make this a workspace. And rename it. Awesome. So now that I have all of my activities here, I think I'm ready to go ahead and enter presentation mode. As a reminder, you can rename your file using this space up here. And then once you've made all the changes you want to make, just go ahead and press Finish Editing. So now that I've finished editing, I am in presentation mode. And this is the opportunity for those of you who want to participate to join my class. If you are interested in joining my class, please open a new tab. Do not close out of your webinar window. And in that new tab, you are going to go to hellosmart.com, join as a guest, and enter my class ID, which is 620784. And someone will drop this information in the chat for you as well. So again, if you're interested in joining my class, please open a new tab and leave your webinar window open as well. And in that new tab, you're going to go to hellosmart.com, join as a guest, and enter my class ID, which is 620784. As participants are joining, over on the left-hand side of my page, there's an icon with 2 people. It has a little number up top that lets me know how many participants are in. And if I click on that icon, it gives me a list of the participants that are in my class. So I see they're starting to file in. I'll just wait a few more moments, see if anyone else comes in. The first activity that we have up is a Shoutout, which I have to start for you to interact with. So those of you that are in my class, you're probably seeing a message that says your teacher hasn't started this activity yet. I'm going to go ahead and start. This Shoutout is a name your emotion Shoutout. So as students are coming in, I would like for them to share with me how they're feeling thus far in the day. So I'll go ahead and start this for you all. That way you can share your emotions with me. As responses are submitted, they appear on the teacher's screen. And so for those of you that are interested in seeing some of the responses, Feel free to click back over to the webinar window. That way you're able to see what everyone is sharing. Awesome. And what's really cool about Shoutout is as the responses come in, you can actually move them around. So if you notice some similarities, you could group them. You're also able to enlarge them. So simply by clicking on a tile, you make it bigger. And when your tiles are enlarged, you can use the arrows in the bottom right-hand corner to navigate through the different responses. So I'm seeing exciting, yay, anticipating, excited to learn. Awesome. So my students are feeling pretty good right now. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep us moving. And when you're in Smart Learning Suite Online, to navigate through your file, you have these arrows in the bottom left-hand corner, but you also have a stack that's in the center, and that allows you to scroll through and get directly to the slide that you want to use. So I am going to jump ahead to slide number 3. And slide number 3 is for peer positivity. And this is a workspace. So for workspaces, I mentioned during the editing phase, you have the ability to have all of your students work on one space, or you can create groups. So as the teacher, you would select Set Up. And once it sets up, or once it's beginning to set up, it will ask you if you would like to form teams, if so, how many, or if you want everyone to be on one team. So for that classroom bingo that I shared, that would be something that you would want everyone to be on one team. That way there's essentially one sheet of paper that everyone is writing on. But for this one, students would be in groups giving feedback to their peers. So I would make this one teams, and I'm going to go ahead and make teams of 3. So you can see here, it's forming the teams for you. You also have the ability to manipulate the teams. So if there were any students that you needed to move around, you could, or you could just let your students know, hey, I didn't pick the teams, the computer did. And then once your teams are formed, down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you have Start Workspace, and your students would be working with those students that are listed in their group. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to keep us moving, but you will have access to this file in the event that you want to play around and check some of the features out. I'm going to jump ahead to the last one that I created, which is the appreciation, apology, and aha. And you can see here, again, I have the ability to set it up. And for this one, I would want everyone on one team. So I'll select that option. And now that we're in, on the right-hand side of your page, you should see the little instructional audio icon with the play button so that you can play the directions that I provided for this page. So I can play it as the teacher, but you can also play it as the student. So I can see our responses are starting to come through. And because we're all on one workspace, we can see everything that everyone else is doing instead of us being in our separate groups. I see hearts everywhere. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Laura. I hope you found these activities powerful, and I hope you're inspired by things that you could do on Smart Learning Suite Online to implement your social emotional learning. And as I mentioned before, you will have access to this file in the event that you want to go in and check things out. Don't forget to also take a look at Smart Exchange for any pre-made resources that are already there.
Awesome, Asha. Thank you so much. So I know we didn't get a chance to play all the games today, but we wanted to give you a little taste of the power of being able to turn activities into handouts and workspaces and being able for your students to really get in and annotate and work on them, whether independently, small groups, or as the whole class. Just as a reminder, all of this is integrated with Google. So it's very easy. Just kind of how we're showing you today is very similar to what you do in the classroom, except for, YouTube Live versus using Google Meet. It's the same thing. Share screen, have your kids join at hellosmart.com, the teacher code, and you're able to share this on a Google Meet in the classroom with your students as well if they're on devices, as well as being able to embed it into Google Classroom. So if you put these activities into Google Classroom, they're able to actually do them at their own pace on their own time in a student-led learning environment. We do have 2 webinars that we did back in the spring about how you can use Smart Learning Speed Online with Google Meet and with Google Classroom. So somebody should be dropping those links to those recordings in the chat to make sure you know how you can use these and leverage them in your classroom. Next piece in wrapping up, we want to see you guys actually put this into action, beyond the books and SEL strategies. You don't necessarily have to use Smart Exchange as your starting point for your lesson. You can actually use content that you already have. Maybe you have Google slide presentations from your SEL department. Maybe you have some PDFs from a school-wide SEL implementation. You can upload all those types of resources into SLSO and then be able to add the interactivity like the videos, the pages, and activities, or converting them into handouts and workspaces so students are able to write digitally. And then you can deliver the lessons live in your class. And we'd love to see how you're doing those. So you can tweet out at PBCSD or the Smart PLN, or even share within our Google Currents communities. And then to tie it up, they're going to drop a link into the chat to some resources that can help you learn a little bit more about the Smart Learning Suite Online, the leveraging the handouts and workspaces, and also being able to access Smart Exchange. Great for SEL activities, but also great for other lessons that you'll do in class as well. You just easily search in the term or topic that you're learning about, and you'll see free content there as well. And then we'll wrap it up and kind of throw it back over to John, see if there's any questions, and wrap up the rest of our session today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. That was a great session. SEL right now is such an important topic for our students, and as I mentioned in the chat, for our teachers as well. We need to be thinking about those great castle competencies, and these are just easy ways that I personally feel like you can be doing this with students who are in front of you physically, or you have some at home as well, so these can be done. Your kids can be actually working in groups, even though they may not be sitting next to each other. So great ideas. Thank you so much. We'll bring you guys back in just a second. I'm just gonna end here with just we don't have much. We just have really one announcement, is that we're moving. Not very far, but next week we're gonna start changing up what our times are, because we realized that we're trying to figure out the best time to get this professional development out to you. We're doing 2 live streams a week for who knows how long. Every Wednesday, we're going to be doing live streams with Smart, so they're going to be giving you some new tool or fun tip to use in your classroom with your students. And then on Thursdays, the Ed Tech team will be bringing you some other sort of Ed Tech tool or integration to you guys. But we're realizing that the 11:30 to 12:30 is just not the best time. So we're going to shift gears and move to 3 to 4 starting next week. So tomorrow we do have a live stream at 11:30 again, and that one's going to be on advanced Google Classroom. So we're going to take you into grading and rubrics and some other things. But starting next week, live streams at Wednesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4. And we're going to move our office hours to Tuesday at 2:30. So we'll be there from 2:30 to 3:30. But we will still have office hours this Friday. All of that is on our website, which is edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. Bookmark it, and the calendar will update on that front page with exactly what's happening. And that's how you'll be able to join us. So if you do have questions, we do have office hours this Friday. That's a great time for you to come in, and we do one-on-one. Some people just sit there and learn from the group. We usually will have someone from Smart in there to share ideas if you have questions about that. So don't forget to join us, but these hours on the screen now are what we're going to be doing next week. And so with that, I do want to thank all of my colleagues in EdTech, the training team, the other teams and functional teams that are in our department. Thank you all for all the amazing work you do. Please feel free to follow each of us. Our Twitter handles are on the screen. We still want to see your workshop selfie if you have not done that yet. So feel free to post that with the hashtag ETPBCPD. And we would love to see all of those great pictures and your smiles to feature you next week. And so with that, I'm going to bring Laura and Asha back up on the screen and let those ladies give you the last words before we move on. Ladies, go ahead and finish out.
Thank you guys so much for attending today. It was pretty awesome. I hope you learned a little bit about SLSO and how you can use it in the digital and blended learning environment with your students to support SEL.
Thank you everyone for attending. I hope you're inspired.